Okay, so it's about. Is it blurry because I just woke up? It seems like my. Okay, so it's about 3:30. Let's go ahead and put that back now. It's about 3:30, and the landlord came in this morning, or sorry, last night, about 8 o'clock, and explained to me that it was the female upstairs had her hand bit by something of unknown progeny. Um, he suspects it was probably a spider, and thus there was mass hysteria, um, and witch hunts and the whole thing. He was able to talk some sense into them, and he left, reassuring me that there would be no strange dogs parading through the apartment, which is good. It just, like I say, most of the time it doesn't really matter so much, but I mean, there's these kinds of situations that it's good that there's an adult in charge, kind of thing, right? Um, I'm not blaming anybody. It's the reality of the situation is that there needs to be an adult in charge, right? Um, anyways, that's a lot of needless drama, but it's done, so it's done. At least I hope it's done. Um, so that's done with. I have. I'm gonna watch a few videos. Well, not a few videos, just the one video. My head is feeling. I turned my fan off for a little bit, and it started getting a little funny, so I turned the fan back on. We'll see what difference that makes. I think it's cold out, right? So, um, I would like to turn the fan off, but um, I'm starting to wonder if it might be like natural gas leak or something like that, right? For right now, the fan is the best option I have. I'm going to be making eggs soon, so if it is a natural gas leak, it better fix itself within the next day or two. But yeah, I'm going to watch a film and get back to archiving. I've got a good 24 hours. I am, or 36 hours, anyways. I am planning on probably hitting a show on Sunday night. Actually, so sorry, that would be about 48 hours. Sorry, 48 plus. No, it's Sunday morning, so yeah, about 36 hours. Sorry, it's Saturday morning, so about 36 hours. Yeah. I just woke up. I've only had a couple of sips of coffee, and it's yesterday's coffee too. Um, so yeah, I am not going to get as much done by that point as I would have wanted to, due to the distractions, the headaches. It was really, I mean, the headaches just killed me, um, and all the other things that slowed me down. So, we'll see where I get to at this time tomorrow, and we'll see what kind of a decision I have to make. But I have every intent, really, to sit down. I'm gonna, like I said, watch this. I'm gonna get something to eat. I'll be back at this by the time the sun comes up, and I really have every intent of just sitting down and just like getting a lot done in the next little bit. Like I say, I got the big part done. After this, it's my next I think it's going to be probably the Huffington Post. There's this weird um, they won't let me log in. It's probably not an accident, but it's because they've got the account cross-listed, and in order to verify the account, they have to send it to an account that nobody can read, right? So it's one of those like text message accounts. I didn't set it up that way. I don't think it's an accident, so I can't use that system anymore, but I can at least get off what I had, right? So, etc., etc. Um, I don't think it's going to take too long. Um, but I've been saying that for a while, and all these complications arise. So we'll see where that goes. But it's the ninth, and I'm going to have to make a choice in a few hours about what it is that I'm doing with the rest of this, because of the unforeseen nature of everything that's come up, I might give myself an extra day or two. I'm just going to see where I am at midnight tonight. So let's go ahead and get some stuff in the garbage. This is some of the stuff from an ECG graph that I took right before I left the hospital the other day. There's my hospital bracelet. This is some cheese, predictable. That's from the Sunlux show last Monday. It's been a while. There was some more paper towel dropped from the counter. I think I more or less concluded that it was just spray, but I'm not 100% sure yet. There was the end of the salami from a few days ago. This is one of those Aero orange bars. And actually I think it was better than the orange Kit Kat. I don't know what the orange is, but hey. And it's a Snickers bar as well. This was the consequence of yesterday I was out walking around for a lot longer than I intended to be. And I think that's about it. So regarding the headaches, I did a little bit of looking into it, and I think that probably the most likely scenario is that it was something to do with a migraine. The auras, I call them tracers. The language that's usually used for migraines is auras. And I think that that's enough to kind of put me down that path. Now, it doesn't answer a number of other questions like what triggered it, because I get some pretty nasty headaches, but I've never really had anything quite like that. I've never had anything where I'm losing the ability to recall memories that should be very close to the top of my mind, and etc. Right? So, it's something to do with a migraine, I think, but exactly what is going to be a lot harder to determine. We'll see if it comes back. That was twice. It was the once on the Wednesday, and it hit me again pretty bad on Thursday night. So it's now Saturday morning, and let's see how long I can go with that one. I need to be clear that, even if I conclude that, okay, it's a migraine, I am still going to want to put it in context with something else, right? So, I have a hard time understanding that, or contemplating the idea that it was just a migraine. 2 migraines hit me in the same week for no reason at all. After never, you know what I mean? I guess if they keep hitting me, then, see, it's both, right? It both suggests that there's something bigger, and it might just suggest that, okay, maybe I just get up, maybe I'm getting migraines now. I don't know. We'll find out over time. There's only one other thing I want to point out, though. I'm just going to turn the fan back on, because it might just be psychological with this coffee. I'm a little bit concerned that there might have been something fishy with that particular pot of coffee. That's the last bit of it. Let's see if it explodes my head. Great. Then I know that not great, obviously. A little bit of sarcasm, but at least then I know what's going on. If it doesn't, then I can rule that out as well, I suppose. Anyways, I'm getting to archiving. I have a lot of it to do today. I've got, as mentioned, close to 36 hours to figure something out. So, here we go. I was very flattered when Henry Kissinger said I ran the State Department better than anybody had run it in a long time. So I have an idea of what it's going to take to make our government work more efficiently. That's something that Hillary Clinton actually said. And this falls into the category of things that it's just like, what? How, I don't like. How, I'm speechless. I'm not having a migraine. I'm just speechless. How is it that you get it in your mind that you think that that's a good thing to say on? I'm not sure exactly where it was. It was in some media publication. Was she planning on running for the Republicans at the time? I don't. It's very hard to understand some of the things that she said in the context of somebody that wants to be the president on a Democratic ticket. Maybe on a. It's Henry fucking Kissinger. Like on a Reform Party ticket. Like what ticket are you running on where you want to cite Kissinger? But like I say, it's less. Um, I think she's very isolated. I don't think she really knows what's going on in the outside world, outside of her little bubble, right? I remember, maybe I'll find the quote. She said that she hasn't driven a car since the 90s. I haven't driven a car since the 90s either, but I don't have a driver's license. And you know, it's more, that is really reflective of just how disconnected somebody might be. You know, they've spent, you know, a third of their life being chauffeured around. You lose that connection to what normal people or regular people are. And this is a good example of that. If she had really any, you know, political instincts at all whatsoever, she really should have known better not to say that she's flattered by, you know, the kind words from Henry Kissinger. You'd think, you know, but I mean, it's her entire audience is made up of people in boardrooms and bank meetings, and you know they get along with old Henry just fine, I guess, huh? You gotta shake your head, but that is something she said. Krugman is right, but who cares? Why don't we look at some important policy issues, like the differences in healthcare policy, the differences in foreign policy, the differences on climate change. When you break the banks up, what happens is they get captured. Regulation does not work. We tried, and it failed. So, personally, you give me a referendum on a bank and I stay home. It's boring, and it has no effect at all on my life. I do not think that is what is driving the popularity of Sanders' campaign, and I think he needs to fight the perception that it is. Because once people understand him as the bank candidate, then he becomes the next Ron Paul. It's a way to marginalize him and throw him away and forget he exists. So we need less Teddy Roosevelt here and more Franklin Roosevelt. The banks are important for one reason, and one reason only, and that's because it's where he gets the money to do the things that he wants to do. And that's all. That is all, as Mr. Wilde would say. The way to fix the financial system is to educate people about where they're putting their money. It doesn't matter if it's big or small or private or public or anything else. So long as people remain clueless, they will be taken advantage of. You can't protect the ignorant. What we need is greater financial literacy. So Krugman is saying, you know, the size of the banks wasn't really important. You know, whether it's too big to fail or not doesn't, like, these are just facile media, you know, sound bites. This is not serious policy. And Krugman's right. Krugman is usually right. Even when he's wrong, he's right. And I mean, I will offer the same criticism at Elizabeth Warren. And these are not ideas that are or should be attached to progressive political movements or to the left either. Um, if you listen to what Elizabeth Warren says about the banks, like her solution to all of this unregulated capitalism is just regulated capitalism. It's not a radical systemic solution. It's market theory. And it's the same thing with Sanders. The reality is that market theory is not a theory that has a very good track record. You can throw it away one way or the other. You can throw it away from the left, which is what I would tend to prefer to do, or you can throw it away from the right, which is what the establishment does. But it's not something that has very. I mean, for all its propaganda value, it doesn't work, and it's been demonstrated that it doesn't work. It has no academic support really anywhere. When you take a course in economics, the first thing they do is they tell you that this theory is a naive idealization for a reality that doesn't exist. And they're right? So, this idea that if you break the banks up, if you make them smaller, then it'll be better for consumers, that's not an idea that has really any serious academic support. It's a populist idea, and frankly, it's a right-wing populist idea. It's an idea that you would associate with the Ron Pauls of the world. This has never been confusing to me. I've understood this from the start, okay? But that's not. I mean, the whole banking thing, I would be happier if Bernie Sanders would just stop talking about the banks. Because every time he talks about the banks, I cringe. And it makes me a little bit uneasy about supporting it. The reason I would support Bernie Sanders has really absolutely nothing to do with his bank policy. It has to do with things like his healthcare policy and his foreign policy and his climate change policy. And I'm kind of just willing to, amuse the whole banking thing, and to sort of realize that it's a pragmatic necessity to win votes, kind of thing, right? And you can kind of humor him in the process. But I really don't support any of these bank policies. And frankly, I don't think that he has any real serious possibility of carrying through with any of them anyways, right? So this is just, this is his own demagoguery. I mean, he is refreshing in a lot of ways, but at the end of the day, he is still a politician. He's not particularly left-wing. And all of these, this is one of his more right-wing tendencies that I don't like, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. So it's really an example of, I mean, Krugman's a very educated person, and a lot of the people that are trying to argue with Krugman are not as educated as he is, and especially are not as educated as he is on the topic of economics. And the arguments that I've seen are embarrassing for the people that are making them. And sometimes Sanders is himself embarrassing. And really, in a large he's largely embarrassing himself, right? But again, I don't care. I'm not going to vote for him or not vote for him based on his monetary policy or his banking policy. Okay? This is really of little concern to me. Okay? I'm interested in his other policies, right? So what this is a way to marginalize him. And for as long as this goes on, it's probably not going to go on very much longer. The votes on the 19th, but for however longer that it goes on for, I think that you should expect the Clinton campaign to keep hitting him on this. Okay, because if you are educated on the topic, you know that he's not right, and it doesn't make him sound very good on the topic. Okay, it's a lot of really badly debunked market theory. Okay, what I would like to hear him say is to rip apart the market theory from the left, which is outside the spectrum. Okay, you can rip apart the market theory from the right. Okay, while paying lip service to it. Okay, but you can't really, you don't hear it in the spectrum anymore. This realist based idea that, okay, if you put a lot of regulation in place, what happens is the regulators get bought out by the companies that they're supposed to be regulating, and what you're doing is you're putting in place a system. You're systemizing corruption, right? And so these regulatory bodies, the term is captured. They get captured by the industry that they're trying to regulate. Okay, this is well established. Okay, it's demonstrable, it's predictable, and it's I require no great foresight to say that if he sets up this regulatory system, or if he starts trying to break them up, or all these kinds of things, what's going to happen is that it's just going to open up a door for a wider door for industry to come into government, and all of these things that he's setting up, that he claims are designed to regulate the banks and break them down and make them smaller, are actually just going to make them bigger. Okay. I do not require any great foresight to see that, because it's what's happened in the past. Not just with the banks, but with the environmental agencies, with the defense departments, on sort of concern after concern, right? So I mean, this isn't just rhetoric, right? Krugman has a lot of data, a lot of evidence behind what he's saying, and the reality is that Sanders is really just embarrassing himself on this particular issue. But you should not let that really bother you. It's pretty clear that all of the rhetoric that Sanders is using is really just designed to work people up. He's from a small state with a lower education level. So, and a lot of the people that he needs to convince to vote for him are of this sort of right-wing populist bent. That area may lean Democrat, but it's not on any particular liberal basis. It's a class thing, right? And so he's got to do a spiel, and he's fighting the banks, and like I say, it's a bunch of demagoguery, and it's a bunch of nonsense, and he's not right, but it doesn't matter, because he's still got the best healthcare plan, he's still got the best foreign policy, and he's still got the best climate change plan, and those are actual important issues that are going to make an effect on your life, on people's lives, and should actually have some effect on your voting decisions. Okay, and on top of that, I think that when discussing this, perhaps my lesser opposition to Trump might be a little bit more clear, because he's got the better, he's got the better trade policies, etc. Right? Despite the fact that I don't agree with him on all these other things. He does, there are, and I prefer Trump's foreign policy as well, right? So, the point being that, instead of trying to push back on this point, I think that, the Sanders supporters should acknowledge it, and not embarrass themselves in trying to, argue against, your Krugmans, or your Stieglitzes, or whoever else it is that's coming out and saying, listen, his arguments are broadly ignorant of the actual way that government and finance interact with each other, what it is that we understand about how regulatory systems work, what it is that we understand about what markets are. I don't even want to say about how markets work, because there's really no such thing as markets, and et cetera, right? Maybe it should come to no surprise to you that the Nobel laureate kind of knows what he's talking about. So that's that, and don't let it get to you, kind of thing. In case anybody was curious, I'm noticing as it's coming up as I'm archiving, it's about 4 o'clock. I'm going to need to switch over into the next step here. I am not a member of the NDP. In fact, I did not even vote for them in the last election. I wish them luck, but I do feel that they are considerably further to the right than I am. I don't really think that there's much hope in bourgeois politics of that sort. And I think that it's a lot of frustration with very little positive ends. I don't think that that's... I'm not an advocate of the idea that you change the system through political will. I would be more likely to put my energy with the protesters, the anti-pipeline protesters. I have no information. I have not, well, you've seen me vlogging. I have not been paying particularly close attention, but if I was to become engaged, I would not become engaged at a political party level. I would become engaged at an activist level, and it would be stopping the pipelines. That would be the sort of number one act of, or number one point of concern. That would mean, the disobedience and the whole thing, right? So I'm not doing that right now. I may do that sometime in the future. I don't have any plans to. There are things that are, to do with my individual life as a person that are of more importance to me than, I'm not interested in doing things for the future. I don't have children. I don't want children. It's not about, making a better future. That's of no meaning to me, right? It's just about doing what's right, and about doing what... It's my perspective that you should look at the present and the future as the same thing. If you have to break down the present and the future and think that you're going against your... it's never going to work that way. Okay? That's not... If you have to fight with yourself, then you should just go ahead. Right? Because nothing's ever going to be resolved by people that have to force themselves to do something for the future instead of doing things for themselves. It has to be something in you that makes you want to do this. And there's lots of people that live, healthy, clean lifestyles with, almost no, petrochemicals. Not because they want, a great life for their kids, but because they want a great life for themselves, right? and for me, what I'm focusing on right now is this, right? If I was going to become involved in activism, it would be about the now. Okay, I don't want to do things for the future. I want to do things for now, for the present, because I'm not going to be alive in the future. And it's flatly irrational for you to be focusing your existence on something that you'll never see in your life, right? Um, I'm driven by self-interest. Um, I'm an anarchist. I'm not a social. Well, I am a socialist, but I'm an anarchist. That means I have a lot of liberal perspectives, and the whole self-interest thing is one of them. So, no, I am not a member of the NDP. Okay, I'm not ideologically aligned with the NDP. I am often closer to the NDP, but I am not a member of the NDP. I voted for the Liberals in the last election. In fact, I voted for the Liberals in the last provincial election, the last couple of provincial elections. It's been over 10 years since I voted for the NDP. They haven't presented themselves as a progressive option. They simply haven't. They've been fighting over tax cuts and just align themselves as just another right of center party, and they don't interest me. And I'm not the kind of person that's going to go out and do that. I don't have the skill set to work with people. I hate people. So I mean, it's not the right place for me to be. It's not the right way for me to live. And like I say, if I was to get involved with something, it would be at an activist level, not at a political level, because that's more of a level where I can fulfill my or carry out my what's the word I'm looking for here? I've been flipping out ever since the other day. Every time I can't find a word, my skill set. Um, I mean, my skill set is not to be a leader. It's not to deal with people. It's more to just do stuff. And an activist role would allow me to do that in a better capacity. Um, if you put me in a room with a bunch of people, I'm just going to make them mad at me. I make a better comedian than a politician. Um, that's the reality of things, um, and I'm not interested. So no, I'm not involving myself with the NDP process. Um, I have very low hopes that anything will come out of it, and I'm really just not even thinking about it.